Hello and welcome to the module on pronoun reference. We looked in a previous module at pronouns and their antecedents. The key there was that pronouns and their antecedents both had to be either in the singular or in the plural form. This is going to be a little bit different. So we're kind of elaborating on the previous lesson involving pronouns because we tend to use them a lot in our speaking and writing. So as we've said before, a pronoun is a substitute for a noun. Okay? So it refers to another noun or an antecedent. When a sentence contains two or possibly more nouns or antecedents that pronoun could refer to, then this results in ambiguity, and ambiguity in communication generally means a lack of clarity. Okay? Another problem stemming from vague or general use of pronouns could be the improper use of you. So the second person, whether it's singular, we're talking to one person, or plural, talking to two or more people, should only be used when we're either talking directly to someone, when we're writing directly to someone, in technical writing, when we're giving people step-by-step instructions on how to do something. But those are really the only times when we use the second person. Okay. However, what we see students do quite frequently is they use the second person as the sort of all-inclusive, everyone does this, okay, in usually general statements. Okay. So it should not be used synonymously with one. So for example, in statements like when one or someone is tired or when people are tired, oftentimes students will write when you're tired. Okay? Unless you're talking to someone about that person being tired, that's not a correct way of using the second person. Okay? The other problem is the improper use of it. And one example of that I see all the time is when students are summarizing a text that they're responding to, they start with "it says" in the article. Okay, so that's another problem. It is really not a very clear pronoun. It is the third person singular pronoun when we're referring to an inanimate object in English, but it should not be used in the context which I just mentioned. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few sentences. So on the exercise slides, again, you will see sentences that contain ambiguous pronoun references. Okay. Again, I would like you to pause the video if you're looking at it as a video. Revise the sentence, remove the ambiguity, don't change the meaning, okay? And on the answer slides, we're going to look at the possible choices and explanations for them. So let's begin with exercise 1. When Fiona set the champagne flute on the glass table, it broke. So one thing I would like to say up front that sort of relates to all of these, always look at the main clause in a sentence, and the main clause in this sentence is "it broke." The main clause is always the main idea and the one that can stand alone as a grammatically complete sentence. When Fiona set the champagne flute on the glass table cannot be an independent clause because we have the subordinating conjunction when. Okay. So the important thing is to always have a clear noun, a clear subject in the independent clause. So I would, as a general rule, I would try to avoid making that a pronoun as much as possible unless it's absolutely clear from the preceding sentence, from the context, what that pronoun actually refers to. Okay. Now, in this sentence, it's even more of a problem because it's unclear whether it refers to the champagne flute or the glass table. Either one of them could potentially break. So here are some possible solutions. When Fiona set the champagne flute on the glass table, the champagne flute broke. If you simply repeat one of the antecedents and replace the ambiguous pronoun with it, it will always be correct. Is it somewhat repetitive? Yes, but it's better to be repetitive than to be unclear. So I wouldn't ever worry about that. So alternatives to that would be when Fiona set it on the glass table, the champagne flute broke. So what I just said a couple minutes ago, the main clause, the champagne flute broke, in this independent clause, we are naming the subject specifically rather than refer to it with a pronoun, so that will always ensure clarity. Okay? Or when Fiona set the champagne flute on it, the glass table broke. So it could be one or the other, and in the quiz you can decide which of it you want it to be, but those would be two correct revisions of that sentence. Looking at exercise 2. Betty's husband works the swing shift at an automotive plant, which she disapproves of. So the problem in this sentence is the word which. That's a word we misuse quite frequently in English. A lot of times we use the word which in referring to an entire idea. As in this case, Betty's husband works the swing shift at an automotive plant. Okay. Grammatically speaking, the word which, and it's always preceded with a comma, can only refer to the word or the term in front of that comma. In this case, an automotive plant. That's grammatically the only thing it can correctly refer to. So, we can be reasonably sure that Betty does not disapprove of the automotive plant. Also, she probably doesn't disapprove of the swing shift itself. So, what Betty has a problem with is the fact that her husband works that swing shift there. That's what she has an issue with. Okay. Now, another, and this is kind of a serious problem with syntax, is right now in the sentence, the subject is Betty's husband. The idea behind this sentence is not about Betty's husband. The agent of the action here is Betty, because Betty is the one having an issue with something. Okay? So starting the sentence with Betty's husband is not an effective choice. Okay. So a logical revision would be Betty disapproves. So subject and verb is we need to choose the subject who is the agent of the action, and it's Betty. Disapproves is the verb, or disapproves of is the verb that we need to have here. So Betty disapproves of her husband's working the swing shift at an automotive plant. Now, the thing I want to point out here, and I highlighted this in red, when we are using the gerund form of the verb, working, so the ing ending, okay, that almost makes that into a noun. When that's the case, then we need to have the possessive form. So we need to add an apostrophe S to husband. So it's his working the swing shift. Her husband's working the swing shift. Okay? An alternative, if you can't remember, that would be Betty disapproves of the fact that her husband works the swing shift at an automotive plant. So that makes it a little bit more simple in not having to remember what we have to do when we use the gerund form. Exercise 3. Susan informed Monica that she's been selected. So she is the pronoun in the sentence. The problem is we have two possible antecedents that she could refer to. It could refer to Susan, or it could refer to Monica. We don't know. Okay. So again, possible solutions here. The first one, Susan informed Monica that Monica's been selected. Again, if you replace the ambiguous pronoun with an actual noun, it will always be correct. So if you don't think that's an elegant enough solution because it seems repetitive that we're repeating Monica's name immediately, the alternative here would be to use direct speech. Susan informed Monica, colon, quote, you have been selected, unquote. Okay? So when we use direct speech, so now we know that Susan is talking to Monica and she's saying to Monica, you have been selected. We could have also made it, I have been selected. Okay? But then we're eliminating all potential ambiguity in the sentence. So that's always a way to avoid that. Exercise 4. In Dr. Jackson's astronomy course, you are lucky to get a passing grade. So as I said at the beginning of this module, frequently the incorrect use of the second person, you, can be the problem. So in this context, this is not as if we're talking to one specific person and saying, you are incapable of pulling off a really good grade in this course, you can barely pass it. We're making a general statement about students struggling with a difficult scientific course. Okay, so this is a general statement, not one addressed to a specific person. And if we're not addressing it directly to a specific person, we shouldn't be using the second person, you. Okay, so the correct revision here would be, in Dr. Jackson's astronomy course, students are lucky to get a passing grade. Exercise 5. Take the cupcakes from the children and eat them. So the pronoun here is them. We have two potential antecedents, the cupcakes as well as the children. Now, hopefully, it's fairly evident that we're not trying to tell someone to eat the children, that we're referring to the cupcakes. But for the sake of clarity, we should really revise this to avoid the ambiguity. And therefore, in this case, it would be, take the cupcakes from the children and eat the cupcakes. So here, we really don't have any other possibilities that I can think of. Occasionally, students say, take and eat the cupcakes from the children. That is not correct, because we can take them from the children, but we can't eat them from the children. Okay, so take the cupcakes from the children and eat the cupcakes would be the only way to correct that. Exercise 6. It says on the bottle to shake it first. So in this sentence, we have the pronoun it twice. And a problem in this sentence is clearly that at least one of the uses of the pronoun it is ambiguous. Okay. So, as I've said already, please, as a general rule, avoid the expression it says altogether. Okay. This is something we can use in conversation. We're talking to another person, that person's not going to care. But when we're writing, we need to strive for clarity and specificity. So instead of saying it says in the article, and I read this in student papers almost every time I grade an assignment. Okay, the alternative to more accurately state this would be the article explains, the article informs. You can refer to the authors explaining something, but avoid the pronoun it. It says. Okay, so always strive to express both the subject and the verb clearly. So possible revision here could be the directions on the label instruct users to shake the bottle before each use. So here we have replaced both pronouns it, because now we've made it clear that the directions on the label is the subject, instruct is the verb, users the direct object, and then the rest, again, we're replacing it with the noun, the bottle. So it's absolutely clear what it refers to. Okay. So again, as I've just said a little while ago, in daily conversation, those are not major considerations, but in our formal writing, it is absolutely essential that we follow those guidelines. Thank you.